Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I'm Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105 through the Fan in Dallas. Joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Bryan. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105 through the Fan in Dallas. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And Bryan Broaddus, roll Tide, baby, in your face, LSU Tigers. You lost. Go Bama. Go Crimson Tide. Proud alum, Bryan Broaddus. It was a tough game for your Tigers. Texas barely escaped against Kansas State. I did not go there, though.
You didn't go to school at Texas, did you?
Did not go, no. Went straight into the workforce at 18.
Are you giving me hell that about this? See, the thing about it is, and I see what you're doing, but real quickly, it happened today. And we were talking
this
about
on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we were talking about the worst fan bases in college football. And there was a top 10 list. This was Zach Wolchuk's list on 420 today. There's a top 10 list that's really good every day, and we'd go through it. And so I made the point that we were talking about the Notre Dame fan base, and I said there's a lot of fans of Notre Dame that never attended school at Notre Dame. And I'm one of these guys that I really don't appreciate you getting in my face about your program if you've never attended the school. If you never set foot on the campus of South Bend or set foot on the campus at Austin or wherever, I will respect your fandom all day. If you want to be a fan of another program and that's what you want to do, great. But I'm not going to take any of your crap when you get in my face about your program and you didn't even attend school there. So yeah. I'm okay. Seriously, I'm okay with fandom. And then the example I gave, I went to a 7 overtime game at Kyle Field when LSU and Texas A&M played, and LSU lost that game.
Is that before Jimbo was there to ruin the program?
No, it was a Jimbo year. It was a Jimbo year. Kellen Mond had an incredible game. And I walked out of that game at Kyle Field, and all the people around me yelling, screaming. I had my LSU gear on. And I did nothing but say congratulations, well played, congratulations and all that, But, if a lot of those fans, a lot of those people go to school and they have they could get in my face all they want. But if you're one of those folks that didn't go to that school and you're getting in my face, I ain't got no time for you, bro. I really don't. I use the word bro, and I hate when people do that to me. But I know here we are starting off this show. But I just think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that that people want to attack others about their schools and all. That's cool. If you went to that school, great. If you didn't go to that school, keep your damn mouth shut.
I love Bryan getting worked up. Guys, he's still nursing a hangover from the party as well. The Texas Rangers party. That was an aggressive party time. So he's in no mood. He's in no mood for your Jalen Milroe trash talk. He doesn't want any of it.
You went to school George Teague at Alabama, or you went to school who all the other people?
Clinton Dix.
Clinton. Anybody that wants to
Tony Dixon.
Yeah, anybody that wants to give me grief about LSU and Alabama and they went to school at Alabama, I'm all for it. I'm all for the smoke. I'm all for it. But if you're one of those T-shirt alum, I ain't taking your smoke. Sorry.
Well, there you go. That's a good way to get this one started out. Let's talk about some smoke. And that's the smoke the Philadelphia Eagles gave the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday at the Link. A 28-23 loss for the Cowboys. This was an interesting game, Bryan, because it feels like when you come out of a loss, particularly a division loss, there's these heartbreaking things you can point to, man, the secondary was just so bad, or man, Dak he didn't have it that day. This was a game that it felt like Dallas won most of it. It felt like they were better for most of the day than Philadelphia, to me anyway. I think for the total of the 60 minutes. It was the line that was coming out of this game a lot was a game of inches, or the little things and the details. And that's really where Dallas lost this game. Outside of, and we'll get into this here in a sec, outside of a guy that I've liked and been a fan of and still believe in, but just an absolutely brutal day from Terrence Steele. The pass protection was a big problem, but still, you still threw for almost 400 yards.
He wasn't the only one.
and you still threw for almost 400 yards.
Yeah.
Passing game was able to be productive enough.
Yeah.
You know, when you get out of the fourth quarter of a game and you've outgained the Eagles essentially 200-14,
right,
you expect to have more than 6 points coming out of that quarter, I think. And so,
yeah,
frustrating day for the Cowboys. But Bryan, your kind of big picture takeaway from this game between the Eagles and the Cowboys.
I thought it was really unfortunate, Bobby, that here's another game where we have the situation turns into what they call 911, where it's an emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
Limited time on the clock, limited opportunities at the end, have to execute at a very high level to win the game, can't have mistakes, have to be able to get lined up, make sure you get the snap count right, don't take delay of games, anything 911. It's all emergencies at that point. It's the second game that I could think of against a major opponent where the Cowboys didn't handle the 911 very well. Look at the San Francisco playoff game.
Yeah.
The one that, there's been games under Mike McCarthy where they haven't handled. Maybe the best one they've ever handled was the long drive that Dak took them against Houston, where it looked like, Houston was doing the same thing. Houston was kicking your ass, and they find a way, Dak takes them on this long drive, and you find a way to win the game.
Yeah.
That way.
Game you should have lost.
You got to give credit Dak to them and, getting that done. But these 911 games are vital when, routes to the end zone, combinations of routes, blocking up front, game management, running the football, not being able to run the football, getting a stop, fair catching the ball, not letting it hit the ground and let time run off the clock. 911, there's legends are made from that situation.
Sure. Joe Montana made a career out of it. John Elway made a career out of it.
I'll give you my Dallas Cowboys of 20 years of going to Cowboys games. Roger Staubach.
Yeah.
Roger Staubach lived for the 911 game.
More than 20, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I feel like that where the Cowboys are different than a lot of teams around the league. That, there's when Kansas City gets a 911, they're going to win. Generally, they're going to win. Joe Burrow, when he gets a 911, he's going to find a way to win. You have to be ready in those situations. You just can't run 4 verticals and hope that the quarterback is going to make a miracle throw.
Who's that on? The consistent failure in high pressure situations. Here's the thing. I don't think any of us disagree.
Bobby, real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. Just let me say this. And you asked me who do I blame on this? How many days? And this is going to sound horrible, and I don't mean it to sound horrible, but it's something you have to think of. How many days do we have? Wednesday, these veterans didn't practice. Thursday, these veterans didn't practice. Veteran days. You know? Are we now maybe Tyron Smith turned the clock back to Tyron Smith of 2005.
He was dominant. He
was great. I said 2005. He hadn't been in the league that long, right? It
feels like
but you get my understanding.
Yeah.
He's he was vintage Tyron Smith.
Yep.
And he didn't practice. And he went out there and he played a whale of a game. But you're in a situation where you have all these veteran days and guys not practicing. Are we making some mistakes because we're not practicing everything? We're talking about classroom things and it's all that, but when you're going out there and you're talking about, okay, final play of the game, the one route they ran, Bobby, at the end of that game was the one they threw to CeeDee Lamb. Everything else was vertical to the end zone.
Yeah.
Everything was vertical. There was no, I love what the design was to Lamb. I would have loved it even better if somebody was coming the other way to get a pitch. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, that was the play that I wondered. I wondered if they were going to design a catch and pitch, like
catch and pitch.
Yeah.
But you got the delay of game penalty or false start. What was the penalty that took him back 5 yards? Because you needed those 5 yards.
That was a false start. Then it was a sack. Then it was a delay of game.
There you go. Okay, so now you needed those 5 yards, and unfortunately you didn't have them. But the 911 plays, the 911 games. I know I'm saying that a lot, but you've got teams find ways to win games like that. You had the ball 1st and 6 on the 6, right?
1st and 5 on the 6, yeah.
1st and 5 on the 6. Here we are. They've had red zone problems. They've had tight red zone problems. They
are 31st in the NFL, Brian. They are second to last in the NFL in goal-to-go conversions. They're 50%.
Yeah, there you go.
That's unacceptable. It's funny when you
and
mentioned.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Bobby.
No.
I was on
no. I mean, I essentially had interrupted you in the start with the question. What I'm curious about is when we consistently see. I don't think the question is, are the Cowboys talented enough to hang with these teams? They absolutely are. They're incredibly talented. They're as talented as anybody else. The problem over the last 3 years, it feels like, is where this team falls short is not in the talent department. It's in the details. That's where it always seems to fall short. They are one of the worst detail-oriented teams in football, it feels like.
No question.
And ultimately, does that come down to, is that just McCarthy? Is that the position coaches? Is that Dan Quinn? Who all shares in that sort of issue? Is that ultimately just something where you got to say, look, there's probably a lot of people that contribute to it, but ultimately that's on the head coach? Or do you say, no, look, this is on the players. The players are the ones who have to execute the details?
Bill Parcells back in the day would steal games because of attention to detail. The game that one of the prime games I ever remember Parcells was the one that Billy Cundiff kicked the game-winning field goal. But it turned into a kickoff out of bounds.
That was Matt Bryant kicking out of bounds with 11 seconds left.
Yeah, exactly. It turned into a pass, an out of bounds. Then it turned, there were things that were done that were prepped and ready to roll. And I worry about that. I do, they wanted, I would give credit to Bones Fossil for coming up with designs and things, and they spend a lot of time on special teams, and obviously they do a pretty good job of that. But in that situation where they got in trouble, they just completely fell apart. They completely fell apart in the playoff game, against San Francisco.
Yeah.
Dak running the ball and then not knowing you have to touch and all this. It's just the attention to detail that is going to you win games that way. Mike likes to get and talk about, we had a good week of practice. Okay, Mike, we had a good week of practice, but did everybody practice? And I understand the health of the team. I get it. I understand it's important to be fresh and ready to go and you have a good plan. But there also comes a time where you have to put your team in a situation where they like, gosh, we worked on this one. Yeah, we worked on this one. Yeah, we did that. We worked on this one. I don't see that. Watch it, Bobby. Watch the all-22. Watch the routes that were run at the end of the game. The only one that had any type of combination to it was the one that was thrown to CeeDee Lamb. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Everything else, the passes they threw down the field. And Bobby, I'm getting to the point, maybe this is a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. I'm getting to the point where I think now, and I hate saying this because I think it might be really unfair to him, but for this team to win now, maybe it's going to have to be Dak Prescott throwing the ball 40 times a game. Maybe that's it. And I hate to say that.
If he plays like he's played the last 3 weeks, it might be a shot. The problem is he's got to play like he's played the last 3 weeks.
That's what I'm saying, though. But we've seen really good Dak Prescott football. And a couple reads missed, sure. There's some things. Should he have thrown the ball to Ferguson? Sure. Absolutely. There were some things he missed. But by far, for the number of times he got sacked, number of times he was pressured, I thought he was outstanding. I really thought he was outstanding. And now it turns into, what? I don't want to hear about how to get the ball to somebody anymore. I really don't. I want to focus now on getting the ball to Lamb, getting the ball to Ferguson, and if somehow we can get the ball to Cooks, but I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
If I'm the Cowboys, I don't think you can fix the running game. I just don't. People are asking about Tony Pollard. I don't see the explosiveness there. Maybe the next 3 weeks, you'll see them try and run the ball. They'll have some success because the teams you're playing will maybe allow you to run it a little bit better, and then we'll all feel good about it. But to me, you went toe-to-toe with the Philadelphia Eagles with no running game. None. And almost won that game. That leads me to believe that Dak Prescott's capable of getting in a game where it's going to have to, the ball's going to go in the air. Because your best plays now are throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb and throwing the ball to Jake Ferguson. Those are your best plays, you know. And if everybody else can supplement, I don't want to hear about. Well, why not targets for this guy? Why not target? No.
Yeah.
If Cooks can find a way to get more opportunities, great. Tolbert, great. Gallup, great. Schoonmaker, great. If you guys can help supplement, but I'm focusing now on trying to make sure that Lamb and Ferguson are my primary players. And I know it's a dangerous thing to say you only have two players and how you're going to win games. But that's really, if you look at the offense, that's what the offense has been.
Yeah.
You know? It really has.
We talked about it the other day that the success of this offense right now really feels like a triangle of Dak Prescott, Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb. That seems to be the recipe, that anything that's done outside of that seems to be unproductive right now.
Well, and we're all talking about, well, how do you get Cooks more? How do you get, no, you need to, like, Michael Gallup, you need to catch that ball for me, man. You need to catch that ball. Even though you and Ferguson were working a rub pick game, Dak made the determination. It's zone coverage. Ferguson was not going to get the ball. You were the open guy. You got to catch the ball. You got to make that play.
Yeah.
So
that's a big part. And let's touch on that next real quick. Let me remind everybody, you're listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. Bryan, on the Michael Gallup front, and Gallup, he drops that ball that was either the last drive or the second to last drive before the half for the Cowboys. And when they came out in the third quarter, he was not on the field for the entire first drive of the third quarter. It was Turpin, Tolbert, Lamb, tight ends. Gallup was off to the side the entire time. I hate to put it in such blunt terms, but I feel like we've kind of talked around this or hinted at it and played a little coy with it, and it might just be time to just flat out say it. So I'm curious. Bryan, is right now, would you describe Michael Gallup as just a bad football player?
I wouldn't describe him as a bad football player. I don't think he's a very confident football player right now. But we've seen Michael Gallup throughout his history. He's dealt with the horrible injury. He fought his way back. He's dealing with things. We've talked about that before. We've seen this. Michael Gallup is who Michael Gallup is. He is going to make a spectacular play for you, or has the capability of. He's going to make a play where he's going to contort his body. He's going to get both feet down. He's going to make a miracle catch, and you're going to go, oh my gosh. There's going to be 2 or 3 games in a row where he plays really, really well, and then he's going to disappear for 4 more. There's no consistency to his game. There's just no consistency, and that I think is the biggest problem there.
Who worries you more right now out of the guys who got 3? One of them was just a single year. It's not a multi-year contract, but who worries you more of 3 guys who have gotten pretty significant paydays recently? Michael Gallup, Terrence Steele, or Tony Pollard?
I think the Pollard one bothers me a lot. I mean, because I feel like it's unfortunate because I don't think Terrence Steele, the Terrence Steele, Bobby, anybody that follows the Love of the Star or follows you and I on 105.3 The Fan or listens to DallasCowboys.com, me on the break or the draft show, whatever we talk about, the platforms we have. We've always kind of talked about Terrence Steele as a guy that, like a plus run blocker, but just a okay pass blocker.
Yeah, I think.
And the word okay is probably bad, but maybe when you say plus run blocker, maybe a plus pass blocker.
I don't even know that I'd say plus. Slightly above average as a pass blocker.
Okay,
probably.
Well, that's and so there are going to be those times, but where he's not been as good is his strength, and that's as a run blocker. They haven't won nearly enough with him and Martin over there. There was a time where they were money over on that side, but they're not getting it from the tight ends over there either with some blocking,
Is that do you think that's an injury thing?
I think
do you think that's a rehab thing?
Terrence Steele busted his ass to come back to this point.
Yeah, because you guys got to remember Brown, he did not
all those guys that work with him. Yeah,
he was not ready to go at the start of training camp. So I mean, he's still relatively fresh coming off that. But here's the thing: is that Steele has, if you want to talk about all work ethic teams, Steele's at the very top on this roster. Like that guy does everything he can to get the most out of his ability. I respect the hell out of who he is as a worker and the things that he does and who he is in that locker room. Yeah. I just think that work ethic and the effort and the study is only going to cover over so much when you're trying to come back from 3 tears that occurred in that knee. Because what was it? It was MCL, ACL, and I think it was something else in there, the MPFL or something. Like, I mean, he tore 3 different ligaments in his knee. Yeah. And so he tore 3 different ligaments in his knee. That's going to be a lot to recover from. But, you know, I as Mike McCarthy said on Monday, he's not going to want to use that as an excuse, even though Mike McCarthy wants to say he's not going to.
Bobby, I threw so much dirt on that poor kid. You know, and he has developed and he deserved the contract he got. The one that probably will bother you a little bit, and I feel bad for Pollard because he's trying to get a contract. You know, he's trying to get one. Who was I listening to today? I was listening to someone Dallas thinking about drafting a running back in the first round. Don't be surprised, you know, that kind of thing. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I feel bad for Gallup, but I know what Gallup is. I know now. It's not a small body of work anymore.
And we're talking about Jerry Jones said it with this. He said physical, but he also made sure to emphasize mental. That they're mental.
There you go. Yes.
With Gallup.
Yes.
2 years removed. Like at what point?
No, I think he was dealing with it last year, Bobby. I think.
No. I do too. I'm saying, but that's 2 years now of having to deal with that.
Oh no, there's something going on there. Yeah.
At what point do we start talking about it in similar terms to the way the organization privately started talking about Jabril Cox before they let go of him? Where they said, we just don't know that Jabril Cox is going to be able to like get back from this, between the years. That's
it's
the
tough,
question,
man. You know, that's a lot of. I hear the statements. I hear people talk about it. Hey, but I know how hard he fought to get back. I know that all those guys that have worked with Britt Brown have come back, and it takes time. It just takes time. But I think I have an understanding of what Gallup is. I don't think Pollard is. I think the thing with Pollard is a healthy Pollard. Or a guy, and I'm not saying he's not healthy because the Cowboys don't put non-healthy players on the field. They just don't do that.
He's healthy.
But the problem is he doesn't have the burst. And all of a sudden, when you don't have the burst to get to and through the line of scrimmage, but there's not a whole hell of a lot of holes there either. You know, there's just not. And so that's the one. I would not be surprised if we saw more Rico Dowdle. I wouldn't. Just for Rico Dowdle can make somebody miss and it's got a little bit more power to his game. I think that if you're going to try and run the ball, and right now it seems like the furthest thing away from what they can really do. They popped a couple of runs. They got fortunate on a couple of blocks. Schoonmaker got the holding call. Hell, they could have called it holding on Ferguson too if they wanted to on that play. But it's unfortunate, but you know what, Bobby? They're gonna put this. I feel like they're gonna have to now just say, you know, we're gonna put this on Dak's back. We're gonna put it on Dak's back. We're gonna put it on Lamb's back. We're gonna put it on Ferguson's back. Put it on Zach Martin's back. You know, Tyron Smith, because they've got some issues in the line. They've got some issues at the right tackle spot because he's struggling. And the center hasn't played particularly well.
No, Biotish has taken a step back, it feels like. Or he might just be banged up. I don't know.
Yeah, but you talk to folks and they're, we were always worried about we were worried about the foot or the ankle. There was something we were worried about.
There's always the ankle. The ankle seems to be one that he turns a lot.
Yeah. So, everybody's kind of taken a turn at having a bad rep or two. That's what I always say. Grade 65 plays. If a lineman has 2 bad plays, probably had a pretty good day. If a lineman has 7 or 8 bad plays, you probably had a bad day with that lineman right there, And that's unfortunately is they've got a couple of guys that have had some bad days with multiple plays.
We talked about Cooks a little bit earlier, and it reminded me, I was reading an article earlier today, actually, about the Pittsburgh Steelers. And George Pickens is frustrated with his usage right now.
Sure.
And how much he's involved in that. And that's a Pittsburgh team right now that's in the playoffs. I believe they have the top wild card spot at the moment in the AFC. And Mike Tomlin, I believe they're getting ready to play Green Bay this week. And Mike Tomlin had a quote about the George Pickens thing where they said, hey, he's really frustrated. And he goes, yeah, I imagine he's frustrated. He wants the ball. He's a competitor. I understand that, blah, blah, blah. But the term he used was, he said, that is a pebble in my shoe.
Yeah.
He said in the process of trying to game plan to beat the Green Bay Packers is George Pickens wants the ball more. Like that doesn't register for me. Do you think the Cowboys need to have a similar approach with these questions that come up with Brandin Cooks and things like that? It's like, hey, look, if it works, it works. But man, we can't worry about trying to force feed anybody other than getting the ball to the guys who are
Bobby. They're scheming to try and get Cooks the ball. He's had some really unfortunate things that happen. He's going to line up on the right side. He's going to work from right side all the way across the field to the left side. And he's going to get separation and he's going to be open. But what happens? Biotis gets beat right off the jump. Boom, just beat. And now it's Dak, trying to deal with all that in his face and try and find a place to throw the ball. They run a similar play. They put Pollard out in the flat, out in motion, outside, empty backfield. Scramble drill, pressure again. Pollard takes off running inside. Well, who's coming from right to left? Cooks. Collide in the end zone. Both guys get wiped out. I think that Cooks is having some terrible scheme luck. Terrible scheme luck. They say, they were like, well, they got to get him the ball. They're trying to get him the ball. But he is having some, seriously, folks, if you don't have to trust me, go get that all 22. You can sit down, and just watch number 3 play. Watch him play.
Removing the luck from it, and the luck obviously being a big part of it. But luck out of the equation, how do you break up the responsibility for the lack of production from Cooks? If you were to take these 3 people, Brandin Cooks, Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, how do you break up the responsibility?
It's hard to say, Bobby. It's hard to say because I see them trying, like they like the past, like we talked about the cover 2 beater that they threw against the Schoonmaker that was dropped. Cooks was wide open in the end zone. They get a blitz. Morrow, the linebacker, blitzes right. They run double picks. And this was the Schoonmaker pass, the Schoonmaker down at the 1 or down at the, on the goal line. He's down. They run double picks and they get a blitzer to the side that they actually win on the route. Maybe Dak, and I don't know, Bobby. I need to ask this question, but it looked like to me that they could have turned the furthest guy loose from the ball, on the outside. So Martin and Steele handle the blitzer, handle the guy. Now the furthest guy from the ball is Dak's guy. Maybe there was a bust, but there you go. Blitzer, Morrow, right hits Dak. And maybe Dak knew I have to throw the ball to the left because I got a blitzer coming off the right. And they didn't handle that well. But what did they do? The guys on the right, Lamb and Cooks, perfectly executed a pick. Perfectly.
Yeah, he was wide open.
Yeah. But, do you going to throw the ball into the blitzer? Maybe not. So that's scheming a guy. But all of a sudden, defenses sometimes guess right.
It feels like since week 3 against Arizona, it feels like they've tried to figure something out.
They've tried.
I remember it was the second drive in week 3. I remember they tried to run a boot and take a shot down the field to Cooks, and it just got taken away. But it feels like I've noticed more of let's try to get the ball to him since then. And it hasn't worked out yet.
That's why they hate the questions about it.
Oh, and Mike McCarthy's tired of it. He's getting tired of the questions.
You know why he's tired of it? Because honestly, and I'm defending Mike on this one, he's trying. I really do believe he's trying to get this guy the ball. He's setting things up to try and get him the ball, and it's not working out. I think that's why I think Cooks is not losing his damn mind right now, because he knows they're trying. Yeah. Because if it wasn't, he would be like Pickens. Well, they got to get me the ball. They got to get me the ball. They got to, he'd be that guy. Mm-mm. He knows that they're trying to get him the ball. They just have not, whether it's luck, whether it's good defense by the opponent. I mean, we talked about early in the Jets game, they try and run again that cross again.
Yep.
And what's the Jets doing? Instead of playing man and going with the flow, they played zone, and there's 3 guys waiting for Cooks on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
They're trying to get him the ball, but Dak's not going to force it to him if he sees something, crazy like that. So anyway, there's a lot going on there, but to me, I think the big picture thought of this whole thing: ride Dak, ride Lamb, ride Ferguson, and whoever else shows up that day, if it's a Noah Brown day or whoever, or whoever else. I say Noah Brown, but I meant that. No,
I know.
Third and fourth guy.
I get it. Yeah, fill in the blank.
Turpin, Cooks, Gallup, Schoonmaker, whoever it is, whoever that, Dowdle, Pollard, whoever that is, my focus is, okay, how do I work with my weapons that I know that I can absolutely go to and make plays with? Even if everybody knows they're going to get the ball, they still make plays.
You listened to Jerry with us on Tuesday, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Did it sound to you like that? It did to me anyway. It sounded like a big thing of what he was hitting at was, if we're not going to be able to get Pollard going in the run game, we're going to start throwing him passes.
Yeah.
That's it sounded to me like he was going to become their third option in the passing game was Pollard.
Yep.
And so I think that's something to watch closely.
I just
we'll talk about potentially how Martavis Bryant fills into all this. We didn't even have time to really get on that today.
I was talking to some people in the organization about that real quick, Bobby, and it was like, listen, practice squad guy, need to see where he's at. We'll work with him. If he can help him, we'll figure it out. I was told, don't read into this. Just don't.
No, he's not even where Josh Gordon was probably when Gordon got brought. But Martavis Bryant back in the day, 6'4" guy who could run 4.42. Like, I mean, he was an impressive
legit
athlete.
Player.
He could never stay out of trouble. This is definitely it's I wouldn't say it's a Hail Mary. It's just, buy low, see if the stock booms a little bit.
Absolutely.
You are listening to the Love the Star podcast. The Love the Star is an Audacy podcast. You can find it on the Audacy app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Bryan, it is now time for our Dean Julia Love the Star mailbag, where we turn things over to our dear sweet listeners for their takes. And
by the way,
and
can I say
topics.
Thank you to all those guys and gals that do that? Really do appreciate everybody out there. Seriously, I know we're halfway through this season, and you guys have been ride and die with us the whole time, and really, really appreciate that. And it means a lot to us to get to do this. I'm sorry, we were kind of dealing with a lot of different things right now with our radio jobs, but this is one of the favorite things that we absolutely do. So thank you guys, really.
Absolutely. And a question from somebody who listens to our radio side, because his name is Tolo Vic, which Tolo is what we call our listeners over at 105 Through the Fan. Vic is saying, how do you guys see the linebacker rotation playing out the rest of the season? Any other potential free agent acquisitions? It was interesting hearing Stephen Jones on 105 Through the Fan on Monday, where he sort of, it felt like was the most pessimistic they had sounded yet, that Vander Esch may not come back this year.
Yeah.
It sounded a little troubling there. What's interesting is that while Clark has, taken majority of the reps there, they've been giving some work to Marquise Bell, who's played well at times.
Sure has.
It's interesting that they've essentially, at least the last couple weeks, it feels like Wanye Thomas has been pulled out of the equation a little bit for them.
That's a shame.
What do you think that is?
Because I don't think the safety play has been particularly great. I don't know how you see it, Bobby, but
No.
I kind of feel like
and Thomas is a guy who can play some hybrid linebacker stuff. He's not as big as Bell, but they have him play both.
Tough, smart, active, can cover. I mean, he's the personal protector on the punt team. That's the guy like the up back. You're no dummy playing that spot. You got to be able to count everyone off. You got to get everybody in the right spot. If you do your job poorly, you're going to get one blocked. No, I think there's a couple of guys that really need to. I actually think there's 3 guys that need to play more. I think Turpin needs to play more. I absolutely feel like that Thomas needs to play more for me. And I just feel like though that those are the guys that when you watch them, when you watch the opportunities that they get, that they make the best of it. And I think Turpin drove me nuts with not fair catching the ball or getting up and not hitting it the ground.
Yeah, that cost you 7 seconds or whatever.
It cost you a little time. I think I said 3 guys. I meant 2 guys there. Let's think of the third guy was but yeah, Turpin and Rico Dowdle. I'm sorry, that was the third one that I had.
Now I'm curious. This is not the linebacker rotation question.
Oh no, but yeah, let me ask you that. Yeah, let me ask that.
No. I was going to say, specific to this last game, we saw the Goddard play where Goddard fractures the arm. He's now out for 4 weeks or whatever. Well, it's going to hurt them, but I was a little surprised nobody at Philly got a shot at after that. Did you think that was that was a little bit of an unnecessary arm bar?
No, he tried to stiff arm the guy.
It felt like he kind of wrapped his arm under a little bit. I just thought, look, do what you got to do. I'm just
get him on the ground.
Surprised nobody from Philly reacted.
That was a big play. That was a big play in the game. I mean, you got to get the guy on the ground. Injuries like that, they do happen. Hell, Dak got tackled from behind in the Giants game. Nobody feels sorry for you in these things. I know that sounds cold and heartless and all that, but you got to get the guy on the ground. The linebacking situation, Bobby, though, is
Clark and Bell.
It's at a critical
point. Clark and Bell's the linebacker group outside of whatever Parsons gives you every now and then.
Well, the guy that they brought on from the
Rashaan Evans.
Now,
who actually went to Bama, so he's allowed to get in your face about it.
He's allowed to get in my face all he wants. And congratulations, Mr. Evans. I'll tell you this, though. The penalty he got on the kickoff team, unexcusable penalty. He gets double teamed and he rips the guy's helmet off, and the ball's in the end zone. You're ripping the guy's helmet off when the ball is already in the end zone for the touchback. 2 times that team got the ball at the 40-yard line, scored both times.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was a huge part of it.
Can I trust you to, if you're gonna make critical penalties during a game, can I count on you? I might have to, but right now it looks very much like Clark and Bell are your primary linebackers.
This is a general question that we've gotten from in a couple different versions. John asked this question. JJ asked this question. JJ was, do we expect anything from Let's Go this year? Potentially sliding over, covering some for Steele. John had asked about, do you talk about moving Awesome Richards over to the right side, maybe taking some reps from Steele? Yeah. I don't think they're ready to replace Steele. It sounded like Jerry Jones was adamant in giving his support. But let's say Steele were to go down, Brian. Let's say something were to happen to Steele. What would be your contingency? Would it just be have Adoga slide over and play right? Would it be Richards?
I think Adoga would play right tackle. That's what I think they would do. I don't think they want to move. I know I yell about moving Tyler Smith. I don't think they're moving Tyler Smith at all. I really don't.
No.
They need Tyron Smith to keep playing like he did. I know somebody asked me the question. I've actually brought it up on the radio today on our show on the G-Bag Nation 105.3 The Fan. Would you bubble wrap Tyron Smith the next 3 weeks and not play him at all? And
no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Other than the Giants, maybe, because the Giants can't score points.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Carolina, Giants, Commanders, right? Is that the 3 you got?
Commanders would worry me. I think you need somebody to protect for you against the Commanders.
They gave up all their edge rushers, right?
They gave up 2 of them, but I mean they can still bring some pressure. We'll get to the Washington tape in a couple weeks. They can still bring some pressure.
I understand. I understand what you're saying there. I just wondered, but then again, I thought about it. Tyron Smith's on a pay for play basis right now too.
Yeah, he would not be okay with that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think he was already not okay with not playing last week.
Yeah.
Next question here from Andrew. Is the Texas Coast scheme being pushed to the side when plays net negative results? And therefore, do you think backyard football, Dak is the plan going forward just to find an open CD? It does feel like there's been a little bit more improvisation. Bryan, I got to say, the most encouraging play I saw on Sunday, do you know what it was on offense?
No, tell me this.
What was do you have one that stood out that you're like, oh man, that makes me feel really good about Dak Prescott right now, or really good about where they are?
Well, I look down, it's Dallas 7, Philadelphia 7, 3rd and 13, Prescott to Lamb for 20 yards.
And that was a nice one.
And he had to avoid Reddick on the play.
That was near the top. For me though, the best play was the big pass play he hit to Tolbert, where he's sliding up and down in the pocket. He improvises. He points. He's direct. He's direct in traffic. Tolbert sees what he's doing. They're in sync. That makes me feel really good about the connection that Tolbert has with Dak. Dak's ability to just kind of play free, play loose. It does feel like the last 3 weeks. I don't want to start any, make any claims or start any controversy or anything like that. It does feel like there's been a little bit more, to me, Bryan, over the last 3 weeks.
Reversion back to the old offense?
Reversion back to the old offense, but a little bit more of your quarterback just saying, F it, I'm going to just make a play here.
I agree because he has – we always talk about, he has to have a running game and, he has to have an offensive line and all that. And it's like, you know what? He's running the ball when he can. He's moving around in the pocket. He's making some really good throws. He's making some really good decisions with the ball. So if this turns into Dak having to throw the ball to Lamb and Ferguson and any other supplemental pieces they have, find a way to help Steele on certain blocking situations. Maybe have Martin keep a little bit closer eye what's going on with Biotish. Maybe the guards, maybe Smith and Martin kind of keep a little bit of an eye on what's going on inside. But if they can kind of help those two guys and they turn this into a legitimate passing offense with sprinkled in runs, I don't have a problem with that. And I know it's probably not. It reminds me very much of what Tampa Bay did with Brady last year when they, they didn't have a running game and they just threw the ball every snap. Yeah, but it ended up being an 8-9 season. But you know what? I don't think that we're magically going to wave a wand and the running game is going to improve. I don't see that right now.
No, I don't think so. I think you're right about that one. Speaking of the running game, though, and we've talked a lot today, you've talked about, more Dowdle, and I think that's something that we are probably going to get here soon. Last question here from Travis Jones. A lot of people asking about more Dowdle. Travis is asking, can we get some more Malik Davis? Can we get some work from Malik Davis? I'll say this, Bryan. I don't know about you, and I think there are things to like about Malik Davis. I think that he's got a well-rounded game. He's kind of jack of all trades, master of none. I think Rico Dowdle's better, and I think that this football team likes. I think this team likes Dowdle a significant amount more than Malik Davis, and not as any sort of an indictment. It's just Dowdle's never been healthy for them. This is the first year he's been healthy.
Right.
But to be honest, if he would have been healthy in 2020, he would have been getting work all the way back to 2020 during the COVID year because they like him. They have always liked him.
No, I agree. They're having a hard time now. They can't even get Deuce Vaughn active. So, that's what it is. But to me personally, I mentioned the three guys I like to see more opportunity. Dowdle being one of them, Turpin, and then Wanye Thomas. Those are my three guys.
That does it for us here today on the Love of the Star podcast. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'll bring a couple more episodes to you this week. A look at Bryan. I don't know if there's a worse punishment one can go through than having to study the Giants offense.
About to do it right now.
Oh gosh!
As soon as I get off the air,
6 points a game at home this year, Bryan. That's what they're averaging.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to sit down and watch them on defense first, and then I'll do the offense. So
get to defense, and then that'll give you some time to.
We got to do a couple more shows this week too, right?
We do, yeah. It gives you a chance to pray a little before you have to actually watch Brian Daboll's offense. Before next year, we welcome Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams to the Giants as a tandem. I don't mean to put that evil on everybody, but for Bryan Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. If you did not go to the team that's playing LSU, just shut the hell up. Don't get in Brian's face about it, okay? Let the man be. Let him watch
Be a fan all you want, but if you didn't attend this, don't be an ass fan. That's what I'm asking.
For Bryan Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We'll talk to you guys again next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.